The old man sat in his worn armchair, the one by the window that overlooked a world he no longer truly participated in. His name was Arthur, and the lines etched around his eyes weren't just from age. They were maps of a lifetime spent navigating regret, each furrow a silent testament to a path not taken. He was 72, but his soul felt far older, burdened by a single, persistent ghost, the faint, almost imperceptible smile of a woman named... It was a smile he remembered in stark, agonizing detail, a smile he had once, long ago, refused. That refusal, a single moment of youthful blindness, had become the anchor of his existence, pulling him down into an ocean of... He often wondered if anyone else carried such a heavy, invisible weight. A decision from half a century ago that still dictated the rhythm of their breathing. He adjusted the spectacles on his nose, picking up a faded photograph from the mahogany table beside him. The edges were softened by time, the colors muted, but Ilara's eyes, full of a vibrant, mischievous light, still held him captive. He traced the outline of her face with a trembling finger, a silent question forming on his lips. "Ilara, my dear, did you ever truly forgive me?" The story, as all stories of profound regret do, began with a whisper of a time when choices felt light as dandelion fluff, unaware of the gravity they would eventually accrue. Arthur was 22, freshly graduated from university, brimming with the kind of self-assured ambition that only youth can truly. He saw the world as a ladder, each rung a step towards a predetermined success, a path paved with logic and strategic decisions. Love, in his carefully constructed worldview, was a pleasant diversion, an eventual accompaniment to a life already mapped out. It was not, under any circumstances, to be the foundation. And then there was Ilara. She materialized in his life like a sudden, unexpected burst of color in a monochrome landscape. They met at a charity gala, a stuffy affair Arthur attended out of obligation, a networking opportunity disguised as philanthropy. She was a volunteer, her hands gracefully arranging flowers, her laughter a melody that cut through the polite hum of conversation. Her dress, a simple emerald green, seemed to glow against the backdrop of the dimly lit hall. He, in his meticulously tailored suit, felt suddenly clumsy, out of place. Their eyes met across a crowded room, a cliché he'd always scoffed at, but one, in that instant, felt like destiny. Ilara was everything Arthur was not. She was spontaneous, her spirit untamed, her heart an open book. She spoke of poetry in distant lands, of painting sunsets and chasing forgotten dreams. Arthur, with his spreadsheets and career projections, found himself inexplicably drawn to her chaotic beauty. Their first date was not a carefully planned dinner, but a spontaneous picnic in a hidden park. Ilara arriving with a basket full of homemade sandwiches and a worn copy of poems. He, ever the pragmatist, had brought a briefcase. Half expecting to discuss market trends, she had simply laughed, a sound like wind chimes, and pulled him onto the grass, urging him to look at the clouds and find shapes. He found himself doing it, truly doing it, for the first time in his life. He saw dragons, castles, and once, to his own surprise, a perfect heart. For months, their lives intertwined. A delicate dance between his structured world and her free-spirited existence. He found himself delaying meetings, canceling appointments, all to spend another hour watching her paint, or listening to her recount a whimsical dream. He felt a lightness he'd never known, a joy that seeped into the very marrow of his bones. He was falling irrevocably, deeply in love. The thought terrified him. His father, a stern man with an unyielding belief in financial security and social standing, had always drilled into Arthur the importance of making sensible choices. Love, his father had often said, was a luxury, not a necessity, especially for a man destined for greatness. Arthur had internalized this mantra, building a fortress around his heart, believing it to be a shield against vulnerability. Ilara, however, was slowly but surely dismantling that fortress, brick by brick. With every shared smile, every gentle touch, every whispered secret, He began to see a future with her, a future vibrant and unpredictable, a future that diverged sharply from the meticulously planned trajectory he had envisioned. This realization brought with it a profound unease. The fear of disappointing his father, of straying from the path of expected success, gnawed at him. He started pulling away, subtly at first. He'd be too busy for their impromptu picnics, too tired for their late-night conversations. Ilara, with her sensitive heart, noticed. Her vibrant smile began to dim, replaced by a quiet questioning in her eyes. The turning point, the moment that would forever brand itself onto Arthur's memory, came on a crisp autumn evening. They were sitting on a park bench, leaves rustling around their feet like whispered secrets. Ilara, her hands clasped in her lap, turned to him, her eyes brimming with an unspoken plea. "Arthur," she began, her voice soft, "I feel you slipping away. Is there someone else?" He shook his head, unable to meet her gaze. "No, Ilara, it's not that." He paused, the words catching in his throat, and knot of fear tightening in his stomach. It's about my future, my career. I have responsibilities, expectations." He heard himself speaking, the words sounding hollow and rehearsed, alien even to his own ears. He was repeating his father's doctrines, using them as a shield against the overwhelming power of his own emotions. "I need to focus," he continued, the lie tasting bitter on his tongue. "I need to build something solid, something secure. And I don't think I can do that, not with this." His voice trailed, the unspoken implication hanging heavy in the air. "Not with you." Ilara's face in that moment was a portrait of heartbreak. The light in her eyes, once so brilliant, flickered and died. She didn't cry, not then. Instead, a single solitary tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek, catching the last rays of the setting sun. She simply nodded, a slow, deliberate movement. "I understand, Arthur," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I truly do." And then she offered him that smile. It wasn't a happy smile or a forgiving smile. It was a ghostly smile, a fragile mask of acceptance over an abyss of pain. It was the smile of someone letting go of a dream, of a future that had promised so much. She rose from the bench, her movements graceful even in her sorrow. "Goodbye, Arthur," she said, her voice now firm, though still laced with an unmistakable ache. "I hope you find what you're looking for." And then she walked away, disappearing into the deepening twilight, leaving Arthur alone with the rustling leaves and the chilling echo of his own words. He watched her go, a strange numbness settling over him, a sense of relief mixed with a nascent, terrifying emptiness. He had chosen his path, the sensible path. He had chosen success over love. Or so he told himself. The immediate aftermath was a blur of forced. Arthur threw himself into his career with a furious intensity, determined to prove that his choice had been the right one. He climbed the corporate ladder with impressive speed, achieving the financial security and professional recognition he had so pursued. He bought a large house, a luxury car, all the trappings of a successful life. He even married, eventually, a woman named Eleanor. She was kind, intelligent, and shared his ambition. Their life together was orderly, predictable, and devoid of the chaotic, vibrant spark that Ilara had brought. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter, who grew up in a stable, loving, if somewhat emotionally reserved home. Arthur was, by all outward appearances, a fulfilled man. Yet beneath the polished surface, a hollow space persisted, a constant, low thrum of absence. Every promotion, every achievement, every quiet evening with his family was accompanied by the phantom presence of Ilara's ghostly smile. It would appear in the periphery of his vision, a fleeting image in a crowded room, a whisper in the silent hours of the night. He never sought her out. Pride, that insidious companion, kept him from reaching out, from admitting the profound mistake he had made. He told himself she had moved on, found happiness with someone else, and that his reappearance would only dredge up old wounds. He convinced himself that her memory was a personal burden, one he deserved to carry alone, but the burden grew heavier with each passing. The success he had chased so relentlessly began to feel like ashes in his mouth. The security he had prioritized above all else seemed cold and empty without the warmth of a love he had callously discarded. He watched his children grow, fall in love, and build lives of their own, often offering them advice that contradicted the very choices he had made. "Follow your heart," he would tell his daughter Sarah, when she wrestled with a difficult decision. "Don't let fear dictate your happiness." The words felt like a cruel irony, a silent indictment of his own past. As he entered his 50s, the weight of his regret became almost unbearable. His wife, Eleanor, a perceptive woman, noticed the quiet melancholy that had settled over him. One evening, as they sat on their patio watching the stars, she gently asked, "Arthur, is there something you've never told me? A part of your past you still carry?" He hesitated, the truth a heavy lump in his throat. He had never spoken of Ilara to anyone, not even to Eleanor. It felt like a betrayal, a secret kept in the deepest recesses of his heart. But in that moment, looking at his wife's kind, understanding eyes, he felt an overwhelming urge to confess. He told her everything, the story of Ilara, of their love, and of his life-altering mistake. He spoke of the ghostly smile, the silent accusation that had haunted him for decades. Eleanor listened patiently, her hand resting gently on his. When he finished, she simply squeezed his hand. "Arthur," she said softly, "it sounds like you loved her very much. And it sounds like you've been punishing yourself ever since." Her words, devoid of judgment, offered a sliver of unexpected comfort. The conversation with Eleanor, though painful, was a turning point. It didn't erase his regret, but it brought it into the light. Allowing it to breathe, he began to actively seek out information about Ilara, a task made challenging by the passage of time and the shift in technology. He scoured old newspaper archives, searched social media, feeling like a detective on a cold case. He found fragments, whispers of her life. She had become an artist, just as she had dreamed. Her paintings, vibrant and full of life, were displayed in galleries, celebrated for their evocative beauty. She had married too, a gentleman named David, a fellow artist. They had lived a quiet, fulfilling life in a small coastal town, surrounded by the very beauty she had always sought. He saw photographs of her, older now, lines etched around her eyes, but still possessing that undeniable spark, that luminous spirit. And in many of the photos, a faint, contented smile. It wasn't the ghostly smile he remembered. It was a smile of peace, of a life well lived. This discovery brought a strange mix of emotions. There was relief, a profound gratitude that she had found happiness, that his rejection hadn't completely shattered her. But there was also an intensified pang of loss, a stark realization of the vibrant, beautiful life he could have shared. He saw the life she had built, a life rich with creativity and genuine connection. And he knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that it was the life he had secretly yearned for all along. His carefully constructed world of corporate success suddenly felt brittle, artificial. He continued to follow her artistic journey from a distance, buying her prints online, anonymously, hanging them in his study. Her art became a silent dialogue between them, a bridge across the chasm of time and unspoken words. He would stare at her vibrant canvases, imagining her brushstrokes, her passion, her unyielding spirit. Each painting was a window into the life he had chosen not to live, a life that bloomed beautifully without him. One quiet afternoon, years after his initial search, a small article appeared in a local arts bulletin. Ilara had passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 70. The news hit Arthur like a physical blow, a wave of grief so profound it stole his breath. He had known intellectually that this day would come, but the reality of it was devastating. The finality of it. There would be no chance encounter, no accidental meeting, no possibility of ever speaking to her again, of offering an apology, of explaining the fear that had driven his youthful folly. The ghostly smile, which had softened over the years, now returned with a vengeance, a stark reminder of his unforgivable error. He spent days in a haze, the world outside his window blurring into an indistinct backdrop. His children, now adults, rallied around him, sensing his profound sadness, though unaware of its true origin. Eleanor, ever understanding, simply held his hand, offering silent solace. A few weeks later, propelled by an inexplicable urge, Arthur decided to visit the coastal town where Elara had lived. It was a pilgrimage, a desperate attempt to connect with the ghost that haunted him. To find some semblance of peace, he found her gallery, a charming little space filled with her vibrant art. The air inside felt alive with her spirit, a testament to her enduring passion. He spoke to the gallery owner, a kind woman who had known Elara for years. He introduced himself simply as an admirer of her work, a lie that felt both necessary and deeply dishonest. As he was about to leave, the owner handed him a small wrapped package. "Elara left this for you, Mr. Davies, in her will," she said, her eyes holding a knowing glint. "She said you'd know what it was for." Arthur's heart pounded in his chest. He took the package, his hands trembling. Back in his car, parked overlooking the stormy grey ocean, Elara had painted so. He unwrapped the package. Inside was a small, beautifully carved wooden box. And within the box, resting on a bed of dried lavender, was a single, faded photograph. It was the same photograph he held so dear, the one from their early days, of Elara with that vibrant, mischievous light in her eyes. Tucked beneath it was a small, handwritten note, her elegant script instantly recognizable. "Arthur," it read, "I always knew you'd find your way back one way or another. I forgave you a long time ago. Life, as it turns out, is too short for holding on to bitterness. I hope you found the success you sought. I truly did find happiness, and I never stopped wishing you well." Elara, he stared at the note, tears streaming down his face. Blurring the delicate script, "She forgave me." The words resonated deep within his soul, a balm to wounds he thought would never heal. The weight he had carried for half a century, the crushing burden of regret, began to lift slowly, agonizingly, but undeniably. It wasn't complete absolution, not entirely. The sting of what he had lost, the vibrant life he had refused, would always remain. But her forgiveness, freely given across the chasm of death, offered him a path towards his own healing. The ghostly smile, which had tormented him for so long, finally transformed. It became a memory of love, a bittersweet reminder of a choice made, but also a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness, both given and received. Arthur returned home a changed man. The quiet melancholy didn't vanish entirely, but it was now laced with a profound gratitude, a gentle peace. He spent more time with Eleanor, truly present, truly listening. He played with his grandchildren, embracing the joy of the present moment with a fervor he had never allowed himself before. He even started painting, clumsy strokes at first, but slowly finding a meditative rhythm in the colors and textures. It was a small act of rebellion against the structured life he had meticulously built, a quiet homage to the woman who had taught him the beauty of spontaneity. He understood now that life wasn't about perfectly executed plans, but about the messy, beautiful, unpredictable journey, the connections, the love embraced. He looked at the faded photograph of Elara, her smile no longer a ghost, but a beacon, a reminder that even in profound loss, there can be healing, redemption, and a quiet, enduring hope. It was never too late to reflect, to heal, to understand your own journey, and to finally open your heart to the quiet comfort of forgiveness. If this story resonated with you, if it made you reflect on your own journey, your own choices, and the paths you've taken or refused, then you understand the power of pure emotion. Don't let these stories pass you. Subscribe to Pure Emotion, Life After 50, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another profound narrative that speaks directly to your. Join our community as we explore the intricate tapestry of life, love, regret, and the timeless pursuit of meaning. Arthur's transformation wasn't a sudden dramatic overhaul, but a gradual unfolding, like a flower finally turning its face to the sun after a long winter. The initial shock of Ilara's spectral presence had jolted him, but her final, forgiving smile had truly set something free within him. He started with small gestures. One afternoon, while Eleanor was tending to her prize-winning roses, Arthur brought her a glass of iced tea, unbidden, and sat beside her, simply watching her work, a quiet companion rather than a preoccupied. Eleanor, startled but pleased, smiled at him, a genuine warmth in her eyes that had been subtly absent for years. It was a tiny crack in the dam of his emotional reserve, but it was a start. He began to notice the small wonders around him that he had previously, absorbed in his own analytical world. The way the morning light dappled through the leaves of the old oak tree in their backyard, painting shifting patterns on the lawn. The rich, earthy smell of rain on dry soil. The spontaneous laughter of his grandchildren as they chased butterflies. These weren't profound revelations, but they were moments of simple beauty, previously invisible to his focused, driven mind. Ilara had always seen these things, had reveled in them, and now, through a posthumous lens, Arthur was beginning to see them too. His painting, initially an awkward, almost childish endeavor, became a sanctuary. He didn't aim for masterpieces, just for the pure act of creation. He painted landscapes, abstract bursts of color, even portraits of his grandchildren, their faces rendered with a loving amateurism that captured their essence, truthfully than any perfectly executed likeness could have. Eleanor found him in his makeshift studio one evening, surrounded by tubes of paint and canvases, a smudge of blue on his cheek. She watched him for a moment, a soft smile playing on her lips. "You know," she said, her voice gentle, "Ilara would have loved this." Arthur looked up, a faint blush rising to his... But there was no shame in his eyes, only a quiet acknowledgement. "I know," he replied, his voice a little rough with emotion. I think she's with me in a way when I paint." This newfound openness extended to his relationship with his children. His son, David, a meticulous accountant much like Arthur himself had been, had always found his father somewhat distant, a towering figure of expectation. His daughter Sarah, a free-spirited artist, had felt a subtle disapproval from her father, a sense that her chosen path was somehow less valid than her brother's. Now Arthur sought them out, not to offer advice or judgment, but to listen. He asked Sarah about her latest sculpture, truly interested in her creative process, marveling at the passion in her eyes as she described her work. He talked to David about the challenges of balancing work and family, sharing his own regrets about the time he hadn't fully invested in his children's formative years. These conversations were tentative at first, laced with years of unspoken, but slowly a new kind of intimacy began to blossom. They saw a vulnerability in their father they had never witnessed before, a willingness to admit past mistakes, to truly connect. The theme of life after 50 wasn't just about the chronological age, it was about the life that began after a profound reckoning, after confronting the ghosts of the past and choosing a different path forward. For Arthur, it was a life unburdened by the weight of unaddressed grief and unspoken regrets. It was a life where the pursuit of perfection was replaced by an appreciation, imperfection, where strict adherence to a plan gave way to the spontaneity of experience. He realized that the relentless drive for success, while it had brought him material comfort, had also cost him dearly in emotional richness. He had gained the world, but almost lost his soul in the process. This journey of healing wasn't linear. There were days when the old anxieties would resurface, when the phantom grip of what-ifs would try to pull him back into the shadows. But now he had tools to combat them. He had the quiet presence of Eleanor, the vibrant energy of his grandchildren, the renewed connection with his children, and he had the memory of Ilara, no longer a source of guilt, but a guiding light, a reminder of the beauty he had once denied himself. Her forgiveness had not only freed him from his past, but had also empowered him to truly live in the present. The concept of forgiveness, he discovered, was a multifaceted jewel. He had initially focused on Ilara's forgiveness of him, a balm for his tormented soul. But as he healed, he realized the greater challenge, and ultimately the greater liberation, was self-forgiveness. Forgiving himself for the choices he had made, for the love he had turned away from, for the life he had inadvertently denied Ilara. This was a deeper, more profound work, requiring brutal honesty and a compassionate understanding of his own and fears at the time. He had been a young man, driven by ambition, blinded by a narrow definition of success. He had loved Ilara truly, but had lacked the maturity and courage to embrace the unconventional path she offered. Forgiving that younger, more flawed version of himself was the final piece of the puzzle, allowing him to fully step into the man he was becoming. He began to share his story, cautiously at first, with a few trusted friends. He spoke of Ilara not with sorrow, but with a quiet reverence. Acknowledging her impact on his life, he found that his vulnerability resonated with others, opening up conversations about their own regrets, their own unspoken griefs. He realized that many people, especially as they aged, carried similar burdens, unspoken narratives of choices made and paths not taken. This shared humanity, this collective experience of life's complexities and imperfections, fostered a deeper sense of connection and understanding. Arthur's story, then, became an emblem of a universal truth, that growth and transformation are not limited by age, that the twilight years can, in fact, be a period of profound reawakening, a chance to shed old skins and embrace new possibilities. It's a message that resonates deeply with the pure emotion life after 50 community. We believe that this stage of life isn't about winding down, but about stepping into a richer, more authentic existence. It's about reflecting on the journey, understanding the lessons learned, and bravely forging new paths. Whether those paths involve rediscovering old passions, mending broken relationships, or simply finding joy in the everyday. This profound narrative of Arthur and Ilara serves as a powerful reminder that life holds a tapestry of choices, regrets, and ultimately, opportunities for redemption. It's never too late to confront your past, to seek forgiveness, both from others and from yourself. It's never too late to open your heart to the unpredictable beauty of life, to embrace spontaneity, and to cherish the connections that truly matter. The quiet comfort of forgiveness, once a distant dream for Arthur, had become his lived reality, a testament to the enduring human capacity for change and healing. This is the essence of what we share at Pure Emotion. Life after 50 stories that inspire, stories that heal, stories that remind us that the most beautiful chapters of our lives may still unwritten.